Daily discipline is the quiet force that reshapes a life from the inside out. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, and it rarely feels glamorous in the moment, yet it holds the power to transform everything about the way you live, think, work, and grow. 1 hour of intentional focus each day may seem like a small commitment, but its impact accumulates in ways that are both subtle and profound. Most people allow their days to unfold without direction, reacting to whatever appears, drifting from one task to another without a deeper purpose guiding them. But when you carve out a single hour devoted entirely to your personal growth, you shift from being a passive participant in your life to becoming its deliberate creator. That hour becomes the beginning of a new pattern, a new structure, a new standard for yourself. Discipline is not about restriction, it's about liberation. It frees you from the pull of distraction, from the habits that drain your energy, and from the invisible patterns that keep you locked in the same cycles. When you dedicate an hour each day to disciplined, focused effort, whether that effort is studying, planning, practicing, or building something meaningful, you begin training your mind to follow your direction instead of being tossed around by impulses. You develop a form of inner strength that does not come from force, but from consistency. Each day you honor that hour, you teach yourself that your goals matter, your growth matters, and your vision for your life matters. This repeated act of showing up becomes a declaration of your commitment to yourself. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal transformation. At first, the hour may feel like an obligation, something you must remind yourself to do, but over time it starts to feel natural. It becomes part of who you are. The act of beginning each day with intention sets a tone that carries into everything you touch afterward. You make clearer decisions because your mind is steady. You handle challenges differently because you are grounded. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles because your mind is trained to look for progress, not problems. This shift doesn't happen all at once. It emerges gradually through the accumulation of disciplined days, each one building quietly on the last. What you practice consistently becomes your default state. This is why daily discipline is far more powerful than sporadic bursts of motivation. Motivation fades, discipline endures. Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. Motivation asks you to feel ready, discipline asks you to simply begin. And when you combine that hour of daily focus with unwavering discipline, you create a pattern that your life cannot help but follow. Even on the days when you don't feel inspired, merely showing up maintains the momentum. That single hour keeps you tethered to your purpose, reminding you of the direction you've chosen and the future you're building. As you continue this routine, you start to realize that discipline is not about controlling yourself. It's about aligning yourself. It aligns your actions with your goals, your thoughts with your intentions, and your time with your values. It helps you move from wishing to deciding, from hoping to doing, from dreaming to building. You begin to understand that life doesn't change in a moment. It changes in the patterns you create day after day, especially the ones you commit to when no one is watching. 1 hour of discipline each day becomes a quiet revolution, slowly rewriting your habits, refining your focus, and elevating your expectations of who you can become. The mind is an extraordinary instrument capable of shaping worlds, dissolving limitations, and constructing entire realities, and it operates on a simple principle: it becomes what it is fed. Most people wander through life absorbing thoughts, opinions, and ideas unintentionally, not realizing that every piece of information they entertain becomes part of the architecture of their future. When you deliberately invest 1 hour a day in studying concepts that elevate your thinking, you are doing far more than reading a book or listening to a lecture. You are forming a new internal structure that guides your actions, behaviors, and decisions. The mind does not simply hear ideas. It accepts them, stores them, and begins to mirror them in the external world. What you study repeatedly becomes the guiding force behind your identity, and your identity determines everything you do. When you expose yourself to higher ideas about success, abundance, inner peace, discipline, creativity, you begin to shift the vibration of your entire being. You start aligning your thoughts with possibility rather than limitation. You stop living reactively and begin living creatively. 1 hour of focused study becomes a quiet meeting with yourself, a moment where you rewire the programs that have unconsciously directed your life for years. You start replacing doubt with clarity, fear with confidence, confusion with direction. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they repeat the same mental patterns day after day without ever upgrading them. When you give your mind new ideas to work with, you give your life new directions to move in. In that single hour, you invite your mind to expand beyond the boundaries of your current circumstances. You introduce it to perspectives that stretch your imagination and encourage you to see yourself differently. The more you study powerful ideas, the more those ideas become your normal way of thinking. This is how the mind works. What was once extraordinary becomes familiar. What was once intimidating becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. You start to internalize principles that shift your self-image, and your self-image is the foundation for every result you experience. People try to change their lives by changing their actions, but actions are merely the outward expression of inner thought patterns. When you change what you study, you change how you think, and when you change how you think, your actions transform naturally. That hour acts like a tuning fork, calibrating your inner world. You begin the day, or end it, with intention instead of chaos. You become more aware of what you allow into your consciousness. You start choosing information that strengthens you, challenges you, and awakens something deeper. Over time, the cumulative effect is profound. You start thinking thoughts you have never thought before, imagining futures you never believed were accessible, and making decisions that align with a version of yourself you're only beginning to discover. The hour becomes a portal into new levels of awareness, and once your awareness expands, your life must expand with it. Small actions are often dismissed because they don't create immediate visible results, yet these quiet, consistent efforts carry a power that most people never learn to harness. The mind tends to look for dramatic breakthroughs, sudden transformations, or overnight success, but real growth rarely unfolds that way. Instead, it emerges from the compounding effect of daily choices. Those simple, almost unnoticeable steps that accumulate over time until they become something extraordinary. When you dedicate 1 hour a day to improving yourself, learning, practicing, or building something meaningful, you set in motion a process that grows far beyond the size of the action itself. Just as a single drop of water is insignificant on its own, but over time can carve pathways through stone, 1 hour each day can carve new pathways in your mind, your habits, and your destiny. Every hour you commit is a small deposit into the life you want to create. At first, it may feel slow, even futile. You may doubt whether an hour could possibly make a difference, but that hour is not acting alone. It is joining with yesterday's hour, and the day before that, and the day before that. Soon, what once seemed small begins to gather weight. You start developing skills you never thought you could master. You begin to see progress in areas where you once felt stuck. You notice that your thinking matures, your confidence strengthens, and your sense of direction becomes clearer. These changes don't occur from a single overwhelming effort. They emerge from the steady rhythm of showing up for yourself day after day. The compounding effect works because consistency builds momentum, and momentum makes growth easier. It's like pushing a heavy object. The first shove feels difficult, the second still takes effort, but once it starts moving, it becomes smoother, and soon the object is rolling on its own. When you spend an hour a day learning something new, practicing a skill, or nurturing a vision, you gradually shift from effort to ease. Your mind adapts, your habits align, the work becomes more natural. What used to take courage becomes comfortable. What used to feel distant becomes familiar. You transition from trying to becoming. This is the invisible advantage that small acts of discipline offer. Most people quit because they don't see instant results. But those who understand the power of compounding know that every hour is a brick placed firmly in the structure of their future. On its own, a brick is nothing remarkable, but when placed with intention over time, it becomes a foundation, a wall, a shelter. Something strong enough to hold new possibilities. 1 hour of study compounds into knowledge. 1 hour of practice compounds into mastery. 1 hour of planning compounds into direction. 1 hour of self-reflection compounds into wisdom. Each hour carries within it not just the value of the effort itself, but the multiplied effect of all the hours surrounding it. When you embrace the idea that small, consistent actions create extraordinary outcomes, you free yourself from the illusion that you must do everything at once. You realize that transformation is built in increments. You begin to trust the process, knowing that even the smallest effort is not wasted. It is building, accumulating, expanding, and gathering strength beneath the surface where no one can see it yet. Your daily routine is far more than a schedule. It is the blueprint of your future. Every repeated action, every pattern you engage in, every decision you make or avoid, silently shapes the direction your life is moving toward. Most people underestimate the ordinary moments of their day because they seem too small or too familiar to matter. Yet these moments are where destiny is quietly negotiated. What you choose to do repeatedly becomes who you eventually become. If your routine is filled with distraction, hesitation, or avoidance, your future will naturally reflect those qualities. If your routine is structured around growth, clarity, and intention, then your future begins to open in ways that feel almost miraculous. 1 hour a day dedicated to deliberate improvement becomes the pivot point that shifts everything else around it. That hour is not just an activity, it is an anchor. It stabilizes your direction and reminds you of the person you intend to become. It breaks through the cycle of drifting where days blend into each other without progress. When you commit that hour to reading something empowering, developing a skill, visualizing your goals, or working on a meaningful project, you interrupt the inertia that keeps most people stuck. You begin to create a rhythm of progress. Instead of living by default, you start living by design. The structure of your day becomes a quiet declaration of your values, and your actions reveal your priorities far more honestly than your words ever could. Your routine is also a mirror. It reflects your beliefs about yourself. If you believe your future matters, you will make space for it. If you believe you are capable of more, you will invest in yourself even when no one is watching. And when you consistently act in alignment with that belief, your self-image shifts. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who honors their goals, someone who is moving forward. This internal shift is powerful because your self-image determines what you allow yourself to pursue and what you unconsciously hold yourself back from. As your daily actions strengthen your identity strengthens the quality of your actions. Most people imagine that change happens in dramatic moments, but real transformation hides in the repetition of simple routines. It happens in the quiet early hours when you choose learning over scrolling. It happens in the late evenings when you devote time to reflection instead of distraction. It happens when you consistently take small steps towards something meaningful, long after the initial excitement has faded. Over time, your routine becomes a pattern of energy that organizes the circumstances of your life. You begin to notice opportunities you were once blind to simply because your mind is now prepared to recognize them. You start making decisions that align with long-term outcomes rather than short-term comfort. Your relationships, habits, surroundings, and even the way you carry yourself subtly begin to shift. Your future is not determined by chance or by one grand moment of effort. It is crafted by the things you do daily, especially the things you think no one will ever notice. 1 hour of intention plants the seed, but the way it integrates into your routine allows the seed to grow. That hour influences the rest of your day, sharpening your mind, elevating your emotions, and strengthening your sense of purpose. Soon, the changes compound, and what began as a small adjustment becomes a new way of living. Your routine becomes the silent architect building the life you are stepping into.